Cool. My name is Andrew Gupton. I work at the Santa Clara University Career Center and super excited to be joined by three industry professional all-stars today. Um, you've seen their names and companies in our marketing, I'm sure. I'm going to give an opportunity for them to introduce themselves, but the point of this webinar or meeting is to learn a little bit more about like what the recruiter's experience is and how that can better inform your experience as a job or internship seeker. So we're hoping to pull the curtain back a little bit so you get to know like some tips and tricks that can help you in your next job or internship search. Um, we have, some questions that I'll be asking our panelists. Um, but we also want to hear from you. So as you have questions or need any clarification on things, please feel free to drop them in the chat or use the hand raise function. And we'll make sure to make time for your questions too. Okay, so to my esteemed panelists, feel free to take yourselves off mute. And the first question is a bit of a layup. I'm hoping you can just tell us a little bit about yourselves, your role, and your respective companies. And Claire, if we could start with you, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Hi, everyone. My name's Claire, and I'm also here in the Bay Area. I currently work for Poshmark. I've been here for about 6 years in the next couple of weeks, and I started in technical recruiting, and now I oversee as head of talent, though I'm very closely tied to recruiting. So I'm hoping by being here, we can shed some light on what it's like on the recruiter's perspective and what you can take away from it as well.
Thank you, Claire. And maybe Christine?
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew. Hi, everyone. My name is Christine. I am the Director of HR, People Ops, all people things related here at TabaPay. TabaPay, we are a fintech startup here in the Bay Area. The company's been around for about 7 years now, and I was actually their first HR hire about 3 years ago to help build out our recruiting, people operations, and functions. So super excited to talk to you all and, hopefully gain some, can help in your career journey.
Love it. Thank you so much. And Sam?
Awesome. So my name is Sam. I'm our university recruiting lead over at ZipRecruiter. If you haven't heard about ZipRecruiter, essentially it's a leading employment marketplace powered by AI-driven smart match technology. I've been here a little bit over 2 years. I've been in the early talent space since 2018 after a little detour in public accounting. And at Zip, we're primarily hiring software engineers for our intern and new grad roles at this time, but hoping to open that up eventually to like more non-tech roles. So excited to chat with you all today.
All right, thank you very much. And some active job leads too, so that's great. I also want to point out kind of the diversity of industries represented here. I may get this like a little bit incorrectly. So, we've got like fintech, retail tech, and HR tech, right? So even though, hey, it's been a little bit of a tough time in the tech industry, we're still going strong. Kind of all the industries connected together. So I want to start out with what I think drew a lot of people to this webinar, which is, for many people, like a recruiter is sort of like this mystical job. Like they are the ones that are the gatekeepers for you to get into a company. And so we know a lot of students are interested in building relationships with recruiters. We also know that you guys are super busy. So do you have any guidance for students or job seekers who are like, I know I want to network with recruiters, I want to connect with them on LinkedIn, I want to like have some type of established relationship? Are there best practices you would recommend for how to do that? And anybody can jump in. I'll let anybody start.
Yeah, I can jump in here. First, I think everyone here took the right and first step by trying to connect with recruiters. The way I like to explain the job of the recruiter, at least within my team, is we are sort of this liaison. We act between the candidates and the company. So while we might seem mystical, we are very much real people. But we're here to really support you throughout your career journey. So I would say, for me and my experience, the best way to connect with us, though this might be contrary to the belief, is not necessarily on LinkedIn, because as you know, we're getting inundated with, whether it be I just applied for a role or I'm looking to connect about a role. It's hard to keep up with that. It's like everyone's in my DMs all at once, right? I cannot respond to everybody. So I actually think it's joining events like these, like you get a more personal connection. I think there's 57 of us on here right now. Being able to follow up in the chat and say, hey, can we connect? Or maybe we'll release our email addresses at the end, right? Like these are ways that you can connect with people. Even turning your video on. We're emotional human beings. We like to see faces. We're going to remember faces. So I would say the best way to connect with people is by attending these sort of webinars and the in-person events that you can to actually shake the hands of individuals. Like those are lasting memories for me outside of just the LinkedIn message. And I know that feels easy because it is, and maybe you still do that. But I would say trying to join these events is the best possible way to get in front of a company or a team of recruiters.
Yeah, I would have to echo what Claire said for us and our team, especially going to career fairs. And we actually start seeing students as we continue to go, the same faces. And it's so nice to reconnect with students and just kind of start to build that relationships. Yes, unfortunately, it's so hard to keep up with any kind of social media, especially with LinkedIn and things like that for us. But, a lot of times I see someone's name and I was like, oh, hey, I recognize that because they took the time to either send a really thoughtful email or, took the time to come up to our table and like introduce themselves and really build a connection there.
I definitely agree with both Christine and Claire, so I'm not gonna, keep going into that point any further. But I think if you do default to the LinkedIn messages, I think what really stands out to me about the LinkedIn messages and the ones where I remember are, number one, the ones where students have already done their research on myself, the company, what roles are available, what role you are specifically looking for. I think one of the biggest mistakes that job seekers make when reaching out to recruiters is sending them their resume and essentially saying, do you have any roles available for me? Asking the recruiter to do your work for you. So I think when you think about how many students are reaching out to recruiters, if you've done as much of the initial work as possible, you already kind of have a leg up on the other people who are messaging us. I think additionally, if you're able to find something to connect with the recruiter about, whether it's like a shared interest, a prior company you've both worked at, something like that, anything to find a little bit more of a connection definitely helps.
Yeah, and to actually add on to that, Sam, you were making me think of some of the creative ways that people have reached out to me in the past. And this may just be because Poshmark is a product company, but I've had several people reach out to me about things on the Poshmark product. Hey, I noticed you just launched this feature. Recently, we launched promoted closets where a seller can essentially pay to promote their closet like Instagram. Someone actually reached out to me before she was a candidate and said, hey, I actually just turned this on because it was released from beta. Here's what I've loved about the feature. And this was a message on LinkedIn. And she is now in an on-site stage in one of our roles. So I thought that was a very unique way to say, and do your homework, to Sam's point. I'm interested. I know what you're working on. I think this is a great fit, and here's why.
I love that. Yeah, I think one thing we hear from students, and I think Sam, you even said it directly, is like, how do I stand out? And I think most people know that a resume and an application may not do it. And so I think it's really helpful to hear creative ways that not just relationship building, but like the actual interaction and research and connection building can help them do that in the right way. Related to that, I think another common experience that job seekers have that we can all relate to is like, hey, I found this great job. I put all my application materials together. I was really thoughtful in how I did it. I submitted it long before the deadline. It's been like 2 weeks. I haven't heard anything. Like, what do I do? And we certainly encourage follow-up. But again, noting that, recruiters are really busy people. You often have like a really like heavy rec load. What is your perspective on candidate follow-up? Maybe not even just after the application, but after like a first or second round interview. Do you have any recommendations for ways that candidates can do that without like rocking the boat or impacting their candidacy?
I'll take the first lead on this. I know for us, we really want to emphasize a not only, great candidate experience, right? So especially if you had a first interview and you haven't heard that feedback, I really love it when candidates take the initiative and say, hey, and in a professional manner, right? I'm letting them, hey, it's been a couple weeks. Is there any sort of feedback or can I expect any timelines? I think that's, for us super helpful because it reminds us, oh, we need to get back to candidates and keeps it, top of mind for us. So we really do appreciate that. And like I said, for us, it's really about the candidate experience. So it kind of helps us to keep that process moving as well. So we definitely encourage it. And we even tell candidates, hey, if you haven't heard from us, please do follow up with us. And so that we ensure we get you all the right feedback, in the appropriate times.
I think it also does show your level of interest in the company as well if you are following up. If you don't follow up at all, and let's say we made a mistake on our end and we, for some reason, don't follow back up, it ends up, no one wins in that situation. And so I think, to Christine's point, I definitely agree follow-ups, after any of the interview stages, as long as your delivery is good, there is no reason why we would be opposed to a follow-up. We're obviously human, so there are times where we may make a mistake and we may not, we might miss your feedback coming in or something like that. Obviously, like striving for a great candidate experience, but there are going to be those times. And so I think it's really helpful if you kind of keep us on our toes as well and just keep us accountable.
Yeah, not much more to add than that. I guess a moment of truth is sometimes I need those updates and check-ins because we get inundated and we can be busy or just live off of our email. Those reminders are super helpful. Countless times that's made me go, oh yes, I need to get back to that person. Oh yes, let's get feedback or whatever the case may be. So I definitely think a follow-up is appropriate. Again, it's finding the right way to do so, but it serves as a reminder for us as well.
Yeah, I think it's part of what we're talking about. And Claire, I think you alluded to this, is like recruiters are human, I mean, it's if you have a really heavy rec load and you're getting LinkedIn messages and you're going to career fairs or networking events or industry association events, there's a lot happening. And so like a quick reminder actually might help move things along. So shifting gears a little bit, thinking a little bit about like when you actually start working with candidates. I know you recruit for roles across a variety of disciplines. But if you're like looking at a resume or conducting a phone screen with a candidate, are there kind of like common traits or qualities or even soft skills that you're looking for that kind of either fit directly with your company or that are just kind of good things to be looking for across all professions?
Yeah, maybe I can start. So I think there's two things. I think resume side and then phone screen side when I'm actually talking with candidates. We'll start with the resume. I love when I can sort of make a story through a resume. So things like hobbies or interests, those tell me a lot about a candidate. And I love that. It sort of ties back to Poshmark and some of our core values. Like one of them is embrace your weirdness. And I love to see that because A, it's a conversational starter, but B, I know it's something you're passionate about and I want to see that come through. So those are things that I really like to see. Of course, there's technical skills or like maybe qualitative skills that are relevant to the job. But I would say always include that because it gives me a bit of an in on who you are as a person, which ultimately is really important for us. Then I would say when I'm talking to a candidate or on a phone screen, the collaborative piece, I think, is something that I always like to prep my candidates on. And I think it's going back to Poshmark, like who we are and how we work internally. It may be sort of different if you're in a biosciences role where you're very much independent and you're in labs, right? But Poshmark, being a tech company, that is, we are super collaborative. So what I mean by collaborative is holding a conversation. Hey, it's back and forth. I might share a perspective and you might share your perspective back, right? It's not I ask a question and you give an answer. So we love that that ability to be able to talk and work with people and have this sort of conversational, collaborative type of conversation. So that's something that I like to look out for, and something that I feel like it's something that I align to, and I think because I work at Poshmark, so I would say that's key for us.
I think for us, since we're not as well known, company, research is huge for us, right? And that's not even just about the role itself, but that that you display that you've done your research about our company. I know our product and what we do isn't as intuitive, but we can clearly tell those who try to take a look at our website kind of decipher what we do, or even just looking us up and, in like various news articles or things like that. But something for us that really stands out is when we ask the question, oh, what do you know about TabaPay? Really being able to demonstrate, oh, you've done your research and, that's why you're interested in joining our organization.
I think on my end, just a couple points in terms of like the resume. I think because we hire majority technical roles right now on the student side, I think when people list their projects on their resumes, it's very technical. There's a lot of, jargon there. I think being able to like discuss the whys and the hows of, why is this important? How does it relate to larger goals of, the platform or what you're trying to accomplish? Being able to do that and communicate to a variety of audiences is the biggest thing, I think, for me. Obviously talking to an engineer about your project is going to be very different than talking to me about it. I always tell people, if you can communicate what you did, like you're talking to a 5-year-old or to your grandma, like that's going to show that you really have a depth of understanding beyond just memorizing those buzzwords. So I think that's one thing for me. And then I know Claire mentioned just in terms of, hobbies and interests. I love seeing that too. I think for the resumes that have really stood out to me, I've seen a lot of ties between personal projects that people have done with their hobbies and interests. I know when I was working at Coinbase, a lot of people tried to, create like essentially a copycat like crypto exchange, just because they were personally invested in crypto and wanted to just kind of follow certain things. And so I think that shows me not just that you're interested in, the company that you're applying to, but just it's a personal interest as well. And that kind of shows me the alignment there.
Yeah, Sam, you mentioned something really, really great. All of that was great, but especially the part about being able to pan in and pan out in terms of what you've been working on. So, as a candidate, what have you been working on? How does this tie back to the business? And that's definitely something we like to hear and listen to, because it again not only gives an understanding of what you knew you were working on, but again, how does that relate back to the business, and your ability to talk with an engineer about that or talk with marketing about that. I think it's really, really important. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, this is great. I think, a couple themes that I'm hearing from this is like getting to know the person, right? Like getting to know the person beyond just like the technical jargon and experiences that are on their resume. But then also, what does it say about the person in terms of like, what are they showing you? Not just about like what they know about your company, but what are they showing you about what they've done that directly relates to that job or your company? And I think one of the things that we're kind of getting at here, and Claire, you basically mentioned it directly, is like culture fit, which is like a term that, I know our students hear a lot and they're like, I don't know what that is. And I don't know how to like evaluate a culture fit. So I'm curious. Also, side note, embrace your weird is maybe like the coolest like cultural statement. I'm not job searching, but I feel like I'd be a great candidate. But I'm curious if you have any advice for students that are like, what is that? And like, how do I evaluate it? And then if you have any like guidance on how that's something that you evaluate in a candidate, I think that could be really helpful.
Yeah, this is an art and a science for sure. And I don't think it's quantifiable. And it's also different for each company you talk to. So that said, I think there are some clear things that you can do to help better understand the, let's call it culture or the environment of a company. And I think going to the careers page is a great place to start. You might find some information about core values, leadership principles, DE&I initiatives, diversity, equity, inclusion. Those are going to really help you get an essence of what the company is about. And I think, for example, I think Netflix even has like their 10 principles that they go off of, that they list, and they tell candidates, you need to go read this to prepare for an interview. Most companies, I would say, probably have something that you can use on their website. So that's a really, really good place to start. Then I think, and this is something maybe I learned over my time, and I didn't come out of school knowing this, but when you get on the phone with a recruiter or hiring manager or whomever, asking them questions too, I think is going to give you a really good indication of maybe who they are right off the bat, but also starting to build that relationship. And then you can sort of adjust your conversation as needed depending on who you're talking to. So that would be my advice for where you go to start, is looking on their careers page for that cultural information.
No, I love that, what you said, Claire. Coming from our side, I think being that we are very much a startup, one of the things me and my team really mention to people is that, hey, we are still growing, and that we don't make it a secret that we're still very much a fast pace and things are changing all the time. So we try ourselves to make that clear when we're talking with people. But I love, like, as Claire mentioned, ask the question, right? Even ask, what does a day in a day in the life look like? How do you like working at the company? Ask the recruiter back, right? How do they like it? So, based on those answers, you can kind of get a sense of what it would be like working at the company, and really what are those core values that they like to instill in their employees.
I love all those points. And I always joke with students that, obviously when I'm talking about ZipRecruiter and, my time here, I've obviously drank the Kool-Aid. So, what I'm going to tell you is maybe not as credible as what interns and new grads are telling you. And so what I always like to refer my students to are reaching out to interns and new grads on LinkedIn. They're not getting as inundated as recruiters are. And sometimes, they're really excited about sharing their experience, especially if they had a good one. So I think that's a great place to network and get just like a very real opinion. And then I know for ZipRecruiter ourselves, we make a blog post after our intern summer every year. And then you're able to just hear directly from interns, like, what did they work on? What, was the most valuable part of the internship? Really just starting the conversation. And if you wanted to follow up after that, I'm sure all of the interns would love to hear from you. So I think those are the two other things that I would recommend.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. I think it's like a thing that you hear, from career centers and other people where, especially for students that have maybe done a few internships and are looking for a full-time job, they're like, I don't even know how to define culture. And I think, we work for years on end, and we still kind of learn as we go what a culture really is, right? I'm really leaning into this theme of demystifying things that I know students and job seekers hear a lot. So it's a common experience, I think, for students or job seekers to apply for something. And they wait for a while, and then they get an email that's like, thank you so much for applying. You're a great candidate, but we actually did move forward with other people in the process. We would encourage you to, keep an eye open on our careers page. And, basically like they didn't get the job. I think in some cases we hear like, oh, I didn't get the job at ZipRecruiter. I didn't get the job at TabaPay. Like, now I have to move on. And we do encourage students to actually do that and keep an eye on the careers page and apply again if something comes up. Do you have any guidance or thoughts around like students continuing to apply to a company? Do they get to a place where they could get like blacklisted? I think that's the concern, is like, how many times can I go to the well before, it's over.
I'll start because I think we have a little um with unless there's something else that has happened for us, you don't get blacklisted. In fact, we love it because, or even for us, we even when we do have new roles, we think about those who've had, applied or gone through the interview process who didn't get it and be like, hey, would they fit in a different role? Or hey, is there something else, something for us? Because we're fast growing and things are changing all the time. There are other roles, and we've actually had that happen where someone's actually interviewing for another job open. They're like, oh, maybe this person would actually fit for this other job that we haven't really even listed yet. So it actually does happen. And so we do encourage that. And to us actually shows a lot of the fact that they have an interest in working here and they do want to work with us. And it's kind of one of those things, in my opinion, you just never know. It's all about timing, right? So that would be kind of where we come from in that area.
Thank you.
Yeah, a little insider thing, and I don't know if this is relevant to all of us recruiters here, but in our applicant tracking system, we can usually see how many jobs you've applied to pretty quickly. It's either listed for each job, it either shows it as a number. And I honestly don't know if I've ever thought that's a good thing or that's a bad thing, transparently. I think it just sort of is what it is, because it could be that you're relevant to multiple jobs that are open. I think Christine also said there's oftentimes when we'll cross recruit for other open jobs. Like, hey, maybe we were able to close this rec, but we want to use this pipeline for an additional rec as well. That happens all the time. So I think it's probably in your best interest to apply to a few different roles. We do have a freeze period for us at Poshmark, where if you've applied and you've gone through the interview process, up to an on-site interview, we generally have to call it like a cool down or a period where we'll wait to reconsider you. And that's just out of the interest for also current candidates who are in the process. So it's loose here, but I would say we do follow it to some extent. That being said, though, I think to answer your question directly, I would say generally still apply for roles that you're relevant for, always.
Yeah, I don't think I have too much to add to that. I definitely don't think you would get blacklisted for reapplying. I think for university-specific roles, we do try to be fair to all candidates. So sometimes applying more than once in the same hiring season for the exact same role maybe won't work out in your benefit. But if there is another role that opens up, I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with, applying for that if there's interest as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we give a lot of advice to students and job seekers, and of course they have their own experiences and they read, message threads and blog posts and other things. And this is why we're doing this, right? It's helpful to hear, like, on the back end what the experience of a recruiter really is. And I think it's more of an emotional thing, like, oh, I didn't get that job, but it's actually like we're just taking a break. We're not broken up. Well, cool. So, you mentioned something, Claire, about the applicant tracking system. We get questions about this a lot. Students, I think, maybe aren't aware that like there isn't one universal applicant tracking system that companies use. And so it's not the same every place, and how resumes go through applicant tracking systems may not be the same. How recruiters interact with that system may not be the same. So I think in this case, we have three, maybe different examples where we could get some information, but I'm also interested in like automation and like, do your applicant tracking systems do a ton of the work for you, or do you still look at every resume? Is there something you can share that could help, our job seekers on the phone?
Yeah, the answer for us is no. We go through every resume. I know that there are tools out there that can sit on top of your applicant tracking system that can help you filter resumes, rank and score resumes, of course, with a huge additional cost. So maybe bigger companies with higher applicant volumes might use something like that. But for us at Poshmark, I mean, we're less than 1,000 employees. We go through everything personally. Now, I will say that sometimes in our applicant questions, well, we might have a subset of like 5 to 6 questions that, for example, could be, where are you located? Or are you within 50 miles of the San Francisco Bay Area? That what shows us internally might tag you and say, outside of 50-mile range or within 50-mile range, that help us sort of look at the candidate pool that we have to better source within that. But we still go through everything one by one on our end.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I mean, I would say same here. It was actually funny. I started here and we didn't have one. And so we have one now, which is great. And really we just utilize as Claire mentioned, the same things. So it might screen on based on your answers to those questions because those are required things that we look for, but otherwise we are looking at all the resumes that come through.
Mhm.
Same on our end.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I think it's helpful to know that like there is still the human factor, especially as we talk a lot about AI. I think, we prep students to make sure that their resumes are applicant tracking system friendly, but then, there are different versions of resumes and different formats. And so I think it's just helpful to know, there's still a human element here. Cool. So I want to shift a bit and talk about interviewing. There's something that I've personally shared with students that I know, career centers and, career coaches across the US share with students around interviewing relative to salary. I know that the transparency of salary has changed in the last few years, depending on what state you live in. But I am curious, from your perspective, is there anything you can share about like what you would recommend for students when this question comes up and kind of like how you expect the game to be played a little bit when it comes to like your expected salary? And certainly don't feel the need to share any proprietary or private information, but I'm just curious, like, about your perspective.
Yeah, there's a lot. I feel we could probably spend an entire session on this topic alone. It's like
I
the
know.
art of negotiation and compensation. I think fortunately, with the job requirements now requiring that the salary is listed within certain states, but California specifically, I think it does make the job seeker's role a little bit easier so that you know at the front end of it what's already included. Now, again, I think the first questions I would want to ask as a candidate or as a job seeker is that total compensation or is that base salary? In a lot of companies, you could be offered multiple components of salary. So base salary could be a sign-on bonus or just a bonus. Equity could be included in that. So I'd want to ask questions to first understand. So let me just role play this, for example. A recruiter might ask, hey, what are your salary expectations or your compensation expectations? Me as the candidate could say, oh, well, I saw on the job description that it reads up to $130,000. Is that the base salary or is that the total compensation? Oh, that's just the base salary. Oh, okay. Well, can you tell me what else is included in the total compensation package? Oh, there's a base salary, there's equity, and there's a sign-on bonus. Okay, what's the range for total compensation? And so asking these questions is just going to help you better understand how it's structured. If they come back to you and ask you for your expectations, you sort of have two obvious routes. And I don't think I could tell you which is better than the other. You have the obvious route of telling them straight up, what is your expectation? Or you can say, I'd like to determine this after going through the interview process, just to better understand what the role might entail, what the expectations are. And I think that will help me better answer my expectations, but I'd be happy to have these conversations as we go along. So you're not answering it, you're just saying, I need more information, basically. And that's totally fine. On the recruiter side perspective, I will say that I do appreciate knowing the expectations on the upfront. It's just more helpful, and going back to my original comment of being that liaison between the candidate and the company, it's just helpful for me to understand, like, are we even within the same range here? Want to make sure we don't waste your time, especially, but also our interviewers' time. It also just helps me know how best I can advocate for you. Now, I know that there might be more information you may need. So again, you can tailor your answer accordingly, but from the recruiter's perspective, and maybe both of you agree here, that it is helpful to have that information just so we know what we're working with. But that said, I think it's really just going to be up to you as you go through the process on how best to answer that.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Claire. Completely agree. Yeah. I think for us, because we do post a range, and especially because, you know, we're, I think, mostly all here in California, to actually just even understand, are you within this range is really what we're trying to ask for, right? Are you within a range? The other thing I do want to mention about when you're asking about compensation, it's also, don't forget the benefits piece of it, like the medical benefits. Does the company cover like how much does it cover? Because that does go into your overall cost, right? So never be afraid to ask that, like, hey, does the company, you know, cover for employee only or family or whatever that looks like? That is I think that's one of those sleeper questions that I wish people would ask a little bit more, because it is so important to understand what those benefits look like and what that looks like for you, you know, as an employee, as a cost, right? So
I think also digging into a little bit more of the pieces of your compensation, you know, when you're looking at equity, you obviously have to look at, is the company public or is the company private? You know, if there is an annual bonus involved, is it guaranteed? Is it based on, you know, company performance, personal performance? Is your equity stock options or RSUs? There's so many different moving pieces there that, you know, it does make it hard also to compare, you know, offers apples to apples, just because they are so different. And so I think, you know, to the point that both Christine and Claire made, you know, having that info shared with us as recruiters really helps us understand, like, hey, what is the most important to you in terms of your compensation package? Some people might say, you know, I'm just looking at straight up cash, like that's the most important to me. Some people are saying, you know what, the idea of equity and like this company growing significantly is what's really exciting to me. So knowing all of that is going to help me essentially, you know, sit on the same side of the table as you and go back to compensation and be able to negotiate something that is something you're excited about. I think it's like typically taboo for students. They think that they should stay really tight-lipped about, you know, any competing offers they have or their expectations, but it really does only make, you know, our conversation more transparent and us able to help you get what it is you want, because we don't know what that is without you telling us.
Yeah, totally. We don't know what we don't know. We have no idea if you're interviewing for 5 other companies, or if you really are looking for 175,000 versus the 130K that's listed, right? And you know, at the end, you may be disappointed that we weren't able to meet your expectations, but we didn't have that information. So I think that's why we sort of err on the side of like, let's work together. This is actually a partnership. And I feel like once you treat your recruiter like that, like it's you know, it's better off. We're human, we're emotional creatures. We want to be there to help you. And Sam, you mentioned something good. I learned this through talking with a candidate about what was really important to them. And I was asking for their compensation and they weren't really giving it to me. So it was like this song and dance. But what came out of that conversation was, I'm looking to buy a house. So what that indicated to me as a recruiter, that they wanted more cash, because you need cash now to buy a house. I knew that maybe equity wasn't as important because equity is sort of a longer term play. So giving some insight into who you are as well as the compensation is super helpful for us. Maybe you have 3 kids and so the benefits are really important to you as well. So things to take into consideration.
Yeah, so I love this for many reasons. A, because I think, Sam, to your point, I think students are just like, I do not want to talk about this. Like, I don't even know what I need or what I want. I'm scared. But I also think the other important theme that's coming out of this is like, they shouldn't be scared, right? It's something they should be, you know, expected to talk about. And Claire, to your point, it just sort of re-emphasizes this idea that like, there is a human element here. Like, what is important to you can be compensated potentially in different ways. And it's about, hopefully, like if we get to an offer stage, crafting the right offer that's going to be compelling. So hopefully that alleviates some anxiety, although I'm sure students will still be a little concerned when this comes up. But I think understanding a little bit more is really helpful.
Mhm.
We're starting to get some questions come in from the audience, so I'll kind of jump into some of these. Do you have tips on asking someone within your dream company if they could possibly help mentor you through the processes, such as certifications and required internships? It sounds like connecting with recently hired people who are less flooded with networking might be a nice option.
I'm happy to take like first pass at this. So when I was actually working in accounting previously, I remember when I first made the switch over to recruiting, that was one of the most stressful decisions that I ever made. And maybe a couple years in, I remember a student had reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I noticed that you made the same career change that I'm like hoping to make. And I don't know if you have any advice, but what I'm really worried about is this specific thing. Are you open to kind of discussing this with me?" And I think what really helped and made me want to reach out was it wasn't just this generic ask for, "Hey, like, can we connect generally and you just tell me everything?" But it was, I have this very specific question about, this big decision that I'm making. You've already made this decision and I'm hoping to like get insight from your experience. So I think that kind of ties back to my point before about just making sure you do your research in terms of like, what do you really want to get out of this conversation? Are you networking, to learn I guess to learn specific information, or are you just networking for the sake of networking? Because I think that's the main difference for me when I am like, trying to filter out like how many messages can I respond to today? Like which ones am I going to respond to? I think those are the ones that stand out to me. So I definitely just think that whoever you pick, like if there is some sort of personal connection or, maybe you're both alum from the same school or you have a mutual connection, something like that will definitely help just essentially start the conversation and like open that door.
Yeah, love that. Thank you. We have quite a few questions coming in from the audience. So if you're open to kind of like rapid fire, this is the lightning round. So everyone can answer, just a couple people. Should we include summaries at the top of our resumes, even if we don't have relevant job experience?
I can answer this one, and I can also answer the one below that. Yeah, absolutely. Include a summary about you. Who are you as a person who's applying? I'm sure you have some experience that's relevant to any sort of job, any leadership, whether that's through babysitting or your ability to work with others, right? Or just even an insight into who you are, maybe clubs, programs, things that you led. Absolutely, I think including a summary doesn't need to be a full paragraph, but it can be a couple of sentences because ultimately that's where our eyes are going first, right? At the top of the page, there's a summary. That's where we're going to start. And I think an easy way to include hobbies in your resume is just a little section that says hobbies or interests, and then noting those down at the bottom is an easy way that I've seen that.
Awesome. We had a question come in that I know is going to be really popular. How much preference do recruiters give to candidates on student visas? And does the need for visa sponsorship reduce their chances?
So, I think this is definitely going to be a company by company,
Yeah.
because and I can speak for us. I know we're very much open to those on student visas, things like that, and helping them through that process and things like that. But from, previous experience, it is just going to be company by company, right? In terms of what their policies are and what guidance they've given to the talent teams in terms of hiring folks on visas. And it could also be very tied to even specific roles, as an example, right? So it's just really going to depend on the company themselves.
Yeah, we have quite a few students that are navigating this process now, as not just in Santa Clara, but across the US. And I think we want them to be truthful to the question, like, will you require sponsorship in the future? But I think there's hesitation around like, all of a sudden not being considered. So that's
Yeah, unfortunately speaking, especially surrounding, the political climate and the government kind of things like that. There are, I love it when students, we do meet at career fairs, ask us, and we try to tell them upfront, yes, we'll do it, we'll help, we'll do it. But just unfortunately, it's just going to be by the companies, right, in terms of their policies and practices around that.
Yeah.
Um,
I know we're approaching 13 minutes and we did get a flood of questions. So I just want to take a moment to say that I'll try and get through as many of them as possible, but I'm sure there's no way we'll get to every question. So if we don't get to yours, I apologize. I'm wondering if I can send the three of you maybe some follow-up questions we didn't get to, and hopefully we can send those out that way. An interesting one is, I've heard this before. When is the best time to apply to a job? I've heard before that if the listing has been open for more than a few days or a week, it might not be worth your time because recruiters sometimes only look at the first applicants or don't take the listing down.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. I don't know that I have a very straightforward answer. I think there's so many variables that come into play here. I can give you an example of where maybe that's contrarian to what you just mentioned, Andrew, which is if I'm applying after the week it's been open, I don't have a chance. I just went through an interview process where I was open for maybe about 50 days. We had candidates in the process, and the person we went to offer with declined our offer. I had to restart the process all over again. So after the 50th day, I'm going through the applicants to see who else is qualified for the role. So that happens all the time. I would say always apply. Doesn't matter when it's been listed. Oftentimes those things aren't always right because our ATS is connecting to those systems.
Mhm.
So I've seen it where it says it was just posted, but it's been posted for 2 weeks. So I wouldn't always trust that as a source of truth. And generally, I don't think there's like one better time to apply than others. And you could always just maybe even reach out, like you do on LinkedIn, to other people and say, hey, just want to check in, is this role still open, sort of thing too, if you really want to clarify that.
Love that. Thank you.
I definitely think it
please.
depends. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
depends on the role specifically as well. I know for a lot of like new grad and intern roles, they are hiring on a rolling basis just because you're hiring so many more in quantity compared to maybe, an experienced hire where you're only hiring like one, product manager or something like that. I feel like for software engineers specifically or product designers, things like that, companies are typically hiring more than one. So definitely apply regardless of when it was opened. I do find that a lot of the times the dates are off. So agreed with Claire, like don't take that at face value.
Awesome. Thank you. We have a hand raised in the audience. So Alexander, I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
ask your
I
question.
raised my hand specifically in context with this question because I wanted to ask something about it specifically. I think one reason why I was very curious about when to apply is because I notice a lot of times when I apply to positions, they give me a response right away telling me that they want to move on to other candidates. So it makes me think about if there's a trade-off between applying as soon as possible when it's possible that your profile can still be fine-tuned, or if you should still wait a little longer so that even if they read your application later, your profile looks a little more fine-tuned. I think in my case, I'm still pondering if I want to apply right away, if I can still optimize my LinkedIn account more, not necessarily putting in experiences that may be missing, but maybe putting more emphasis on certain skills, like when you are listing your positions or your skills separated by bars, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the continued optimization. I don't know if y'all have opinions on this.
I think what I would say is just in terms of optimizing your resume, I always tell people that, you don't want to have just a generic resume that you're applying to every job with. A lot of the times, the same like role name at different companies does slightly different things, right? Like I don't know, a machine learning engineer at one company may do what a data scientist does at another company. So the name of the role isn't necessarily that important, but it's really the job responsibilities and like the summary of your qualifications. So you want to make sure that your resume reflects like what it is the job is looking for and how your past experiences kind of fit in there. So in terms of like optimizing, that would be my recommendation. There's always going to be room for improvement. Like, I don't think you'll ever get to that point where you feel like my resume is perfect, right? Like, this is the perfect resume to apply to all of these jobs. But I do think that if you are at least reflecting what the job is looking for in your experiences and what you have done, then at that point you can feel comfortable applying regardless of what the timing looks like. I mean, I think there's always going to be that level of questioning if you're like, I'm getting rejected. Was it something that I could have added on there? It could be, but it also could have just been timing. It could have been so many other factors. So you really can't kind of pinpoint it to one specific thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it's tough tough when you don't know necessarily. And, we know as recruiters, you're not able to share feedback on every application. So there's some level of guess and check, but that's also come to the Career Center. And Alex, I know you do. So, okay, we have a couple more. And then I'd love for like the last minute or two, if I can put us on gallery view and take a quick screenshot for marketing purposes. Okay, this one is a little bit of a longer one, so bear with me. Do you have any suggestions if I wanted to take that next step to get to know your company better? For instance, I love Poshmark and am an active user. Do you have your HQ here in Redwood City? I have a couple years experience in user experience design positions, and I can imagine Poshmark's product team having an amazing time given the industry users and their platform. Outside of communicating with our area's recruiter, are there opportunities for us to get to know the team we are hoping to join? From Christina.
Thanks for your question, Christina. Love that you're a Poshmark user, by the way. You'll have to drop in your username and we'll give you a follow. Great question. I think for Poshmark specifically, we host a lot of events. I think just due to the nature of our product. And I think that's a great way to get to know Team Posh. Yes, we are located here in Redwood City, but we host a myriad of things all over the Bay Area. I'm trying to think for our technical team specifically. We have an engineering blog, and we're pretty active on LinkedIn as well in terms of a company. So I think just interacting with a lot of our posts there could also be a good way to get to know people. I'm trying to think of the product team or the UX team specifically. Nothing is jumping out, but I'm happy to connect with you after this as well, just to give you some pointers. But generally, I would say is just finding ways to connect with Poshmark as a product. And especially if you're product focused, I mean, being in user design, you could even come to those events with like, hey, I just signed up for, the promoted closets, to use the same example. And I have some great feedback. And I'd also like to share with you my experience. So we host Posh Party Lives all over the Bay Area. So that would be a great place to meet the team.
It has come up. I will just tell you that we've been asked if the three of you are open to connecting with our students. So if you're open to getting some LinkedIn connections, you please feel free to say hold off for a bit. But there are definitely some people that are going to want to connect with you after this. So just FYI, that might happen. I also, from Christina, and you mentioned this, Claire, about events that Poshmark might do. I'm curious, like, are there other types of, like, even if you don't go to career fairs, are there other types of networking events you would recommend for candidates to kind of get to know your companies?
I'll just say for us, it's a little bit harder just because we're not a consumer facing type of product and that we're just a smaller company. So, for us, it's really going to be about the career fairs, and kind of working through the university in that way. Those are the times where, especially for our you know, early career, fresh grad roles, that's where we really look to.
I would say for right now, we are doing mostly the career fairs as well. I think, in the future, we're definitely going to be hosting more kind of personalized sessions, working with student groups and things like that on campus. But I think in general, if you're just looking for, recruiting events to get to know people, I think there's a lot of really good conferences out there as well, that really have a good representation of a lot of different types of companies, just so that you can kind of get an idea of okay, let me talk to some larger companies, some private companies, some startups, and really just understand, what it is you're looking for, so that when you go into your search, you just have a better idea of, what types of companies you want to focus on, what industries, those types of things.
Love it. I saw some hands raised. Yeah, Christina.
Thank you for answering my question. I'm curious for Claire, you mentioned if I wanted to find these events, you mentioned the LinkedIn blog and the engineering blog. Can I find those there, or is there like a recruiting email list or something that where I can find these events?
Yeah, good question. Poshmark has a pretty active blog just in terms of Poshmark.com. I don't know if it's /blog. You'll find it, where we host a myriad of these events listed on there, and our engineering blog as well. Don't quote me, that might be outdated, but there's still some good resources in terms of what we've been working on and the team members involved there. Generally for events, I think there's so many resources out there that probably all of our companies are using. Eventbrite hosts a ton of different things. There's even intern meetups that I've heard about, where interns are sort of building their own cohorts across the Bay Area. I can try to find that resource. I'm not sure where exactly, but we have so much information at our fingertips. And I think just a great way is following the company, even on social media, if you have one. I know maybe smaller companies might not as be active on there. Eventbrite, LinkedIn is the obvious one. And finding other intern cohorts and just asking, what have they done? Where have they gone? And getting that perspective.
Awesome. We are basically at time, and I know y'all are very, very, very busy. So with the last minute, I want to take an opportunity to thank you all for your time. This was super, super helpful. I think not only our students, but everyone on the call really, really appreciated your insight, your perspective, and definitely I think this is going to be helpful to people as they pursue jobs and internships. If we can, just for a minute, if I can make this happen, if we can do a quick screenshot, and I think this will be helpful for people to see what we've done here on LinkedIn. So in just a couple minutes, or just in a couple minutes. So real quick, if you're on camera, please turn your camera on and say hello. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, perfect. I don't know how good that came out. So we'll have to see. All right, I did 2 just in case. So thank you so much. This session was recorded. So we're hopeful to get this out to those that were on the call and frankly those that weren't able to be here. Thank you again so much for your time, and we're happy to have you. So take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.